So I'd just like to welcome you all to the extraordinary council meeting of December the 23rd, our final council meeting for the year. It's our final job for the year today, and just like to welcome you all, welcome the media, the staff and the people at home who are listening in. We're going to be doing two major items today really. One is to sign off the annual report, which was delayed because of COVID, but it's ready to go now, so we'll have that signed off. And the other one is to get a preferred contractor for our library and civic building centre. So we'll be doing that in committee, of course, because it's dealing with dollars and contractors. But as soon as we've made a decision, I think we were having a media release going out to the people, letting them know as much information as we can at this stage. So we're working on that at the moment. So, but all depending on what your decision is as well. We'll sway it one way or the other. So looking forward to that, which we'll get to shortly. I'll call for apologies. We're all here. I think, Carolyn, you're going to depart early, I think.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully, okay.
Stay till 12.
Oh, it will be done by 12, yeah. We will be done by 12, thank you. Any extraordinary business? I know of none. Declarations of interest? So we'll move on to item number 4, which is the adoption of the annual report. And we have, with Emily, Tony and Paul, you will all, councillors, have it on Stella. The updated version, I think, came on last night. Yep. So, any summarise, Paul? Or
Mr. Mayor, the audit report for the full document has actually got two matters of emphasis in it. So it is a unqualified audit opinion, but they draw a reference to two issues. One of them is our COVID note, and the other one is to do with the valuation or revaluation of our investment properties. When we got that done, the valuer referred to uncertainty in his valuation around COVID, and audit have picked that up and said that that's a matter that they're going to draw the readers of the accounts to as well. So the other two matters that they've drawn to in the audit. Otherwise, it is actually an unqualified audit opinion on both documents.
thank you for that. Councillors, before we move in, is there any questions on the annual report? Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. My question is, I've asked, it still hasn't been completely answered. Internal charges have gone up 1.493 million on budget. I know COVID-19 had an adverse effect on the EA Network Centre, but 1.49 million is absolutely huge. And the Stockwater internal charges have gone up 625,000. And to say to me that it's just a matter of coding, that's no answer. The Stockwater charges have actually gone from 936 to 1.24 million. It seems to be, and yet parks and reserves are so cheap internal costs compared to the Stockwater. Well, you can't tell me the amount of parks and reserves we got. As we reduce Stockwater distance and Stockwater racemen, the costs go up. Two questions: why have internal costs gone up with 1.5 million, and why have Stockwater internal charges gone up 625,000?
So, Mr. Mayor, part of what I'm sending out tomorrow in the LTP is an explanation of Stockwater and how that works. But some of the internal charges are on the wrong line, effectively. But the overall costs are actually right. So I'll send out some documentation tomorrow to explain that. I'm not sure where you get the overheads going up by $1.5 million.
I went through every item in the annual report on internal charges and overheads recovered. 1920 long-term plan, 1920 actual.
What page are you on this, Stuart?
You had to go through every page,
Okay.
every item. There was about 12 different you start at drinking water and go right down to miscellaneous at the end. Every single one I went through.
So, Mr. Mayor, that's hard to. The way these financial impact statements are put together, double count stuff, and have a whole lot of internal stuff going through, which get removed at the end. I did send out the true cost of overheads to councillors about 2 weeks ago. That showed exactly what the overhead excess expenditure was, and it wasn't $1.5 million. It was $200,000 from memory. But I have sent that out. You can't simply go to that report and add up those internal lines in the FIS statements. That won't work. Sorry.
So I mean, this is what we're going to pass. Surely, is it not true what we're actually going to pass?
It is true what you're going to pass, and I'm happy to have the explanation with you on how we put these together, but these are actually regulated on the way you prepare them and what you put in each line. So we have no discretion on what we show in each line. They are complicated statements. I can run through them with you at some stage if you'd like to show you how they get put together.
Councillor Mackay?
So this is the final two questions. The first question is, this is the final report. And once we pass it, can it be altered?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, it can't be.
Second question, Mr. Mayor. So the information we're going to receive tomorrow on stock water, how do the people reading the report actually get that information to balance their thinking inside the report?
They won't have that information before you adopt the senior report.
Is that fair?
So, Mr. Mayor, this annual report was sent out to councillors 2 to 3 weeks ago. This version does not differ significantly from the version that was sent out 2 or 3 weeks ago. I have had the request from Councillor Wilson to explain the stock water charges, which I've said I will, but that wouldn't have changed the way it's presented in the annual report.
So when we start the LTP, can we have some more clarification around how the stock water charges work?
When you get the LTP, there is a section in the briefing notes that shows you exactly how the overheads are allocated. It shows you what activities get each percentage of overheads, and you'll be able to go through that and see exactly how that is done and the rationale for it. And if you have a view that you don't like the way that is done, then we can discuss that in the LTP workshops. So it will be given to you exactly how the overheads get allocated across activities.
Yeah. So we'll have the discussion around that and familiarise ourselves and on how they get distributed.
That information, Ms. Mayor, will be hopefully delivered to you tomorrow.
Yeah, with then one-on-one or round the table workshop to make sure we all understand it.
We will cover that off as one of the LTP issues in the workshops.
Cool, thank you. Councillor Flynn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, my sympathies go to the finance team for having to put together what I would call is one of the most complicated set of financial statements that has to be produced in New Zealand. There is so much regulation required in order to give us information, but the information we get, a lot of it is subjective, particularly the allocation of overheads and that sort of thing. So really, I don't even look at breakdowns. All I look at the overall cash position and I look at the balance sheet, because that's where the important items are. Everything else up to that stage is subjective. And thank you for giving us the overheads on Christmas Eve. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you for that. I just have one question. It's around wastewater, and it's on the performance measures. Abatement notices, none. Infringement notices, none. Enforcement orders, none. Convictions, none. So we meet all those targets. What we don't say is minor non-compliances on our consents. And could we have or me particular, a list of our minor non-compliances? Which means...
Thank you, through the Mayor. So No, we don't report that through their annual report because this is a reflection of the LTP performance measures. I think I do recall at an LTP workshop you've asked for that information to start coming to you through an activity briefing. So we'll endeavour to do that.
Yep. Could we have them for the year just been? Because they'll be sitting in the background somewhere.
Yes, we can.
Good, thank you. Councillors, anything else with the report? There's 96 pages of it. It's good reading. I'm just flicking through it myself to see if any more highlights that haven't been mentioned. Councillor Fillon.
Being no other questions, I would just like to move the recommendation that Council adopts the audited 2019-20 annual report and summary document for the Ashburton District Council.
Seconded, Councillor Lovett.
And I'll second that.
Open for debate. Being no further discussion or debate, I'll put the motion. I am in favour of adopting the annual report for 1920. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item is the economic impact of land and water management in the Ashburton District. Richard, we at our last council meeting we asked for some costings on the due minimum report and the due maximum report, and you've come back, worked hard in the last few days to get that to us. So, Richard, I'll hand over to you. I don't think councillors have seen the breakdown yet, is it? Because it's just hot off the presses, so to speak. So if you could update
through
us,
the chair. Yes, they come through this morning, so we've been working hard to track those down. So if you recall, previously, just to look at the soluble nitrate report was in the order of $60,000 to $70,000. That was the figure that we presented last time. So we've looked at the broader NPS effect just in the Mid-Canterbury area. And so there was a lot of discussion around the flow-on effects into the economy as well, the local economy. So the figure has come to $134,000 to $148,000, which includes Infometrics doing a more comprehensive community impact analysis as well as the on-farm effect. And then extending that, the third option was to extend that to include Canterbury. So considering there's 10 territorial authorities, and Infometrics identified that they need to do a model for each individual territory, so it multiplies by 10. The bigger report is somewhere in the order of $190,000 to $215,000 for the Canterbury-wide report.
Thank you for that information. I think we would stick with the 70K report, which focuses on the 2.4 of nitrates here in this district. I think Southland have done the pugging, winter grazing piece of work and taken that to the government and supposedly been heard well. So I think we should just stick with our original 70,000 report. But open for questions of Richard. Dwayne.
Just to clarify that, that's for us to take it to the next level and study the effects at 2.4.
Yes.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, the 125,000 cost, that would include the multiplier effects upon the rest of the local economy.
Through the chair, so the middle report, it's 134 to 148. So that incorporates just a Mid-Canterbury focused analysis of community impact.
Hamish?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the difference with that report is that it's focused on the whole MPS as opposed to just the nitrates. So its principal difference is the effect of the MPS, all the other measures that are in there on the Mid-Canterbury district, as opposed to just focusing on the nitrates in that simpler report.
Stuart?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Have you spoke to any other mayors or Canterbury mayors, anything about it, as they expressed the same rationale that we're talking to at this stage, or you had any support for other mayors, what we're doing?
No, I haven't spoken to other mayors lately on what we're doing since last Thursday's council meeting. No, I haven't. They are supportive of the work we're doing. The initial report has all been sent to them, and the working group we set up, we now have a date, just come through in the last day or so, for that first initial meeting, which is in March. We have a date. So hopefully this information will be available for that meeting, I'm hoping.
Through the chair, the second report, the approach of the first report is going to be about looking at each individual farm system, so any other territorial authority could actually use the same methodology and in fact potentially the same data and apply it to their own region. So that'll be the benefit of us doing this work is actually it will be transferable to other areas quite easily.
Councillor Kim?
The MPS statement, is that the whole of the MPS is, the goal is to have it introduced in one generation, the whole of the MPS, not just the nitrates?
Hamish?
Is that correct?
The whole MPS is regulation now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
Okay.
so it's regulations in effect in New Zealand as from I think the 23rd of September.
But there's a generation essentially to get the nitrates.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But the MPS is I don't know 150 pages of ways of which they want water in the rural and the urban area to be cleaned up. So this focus on a generation, I'm not sure whether that's particular to nitrates or it's particular to every other thing that's in the water that shouldn't be. We could clarify that, Richard. I don't know if you know the answer to that.
Sure. The concept of intergeneration is probably just that at the moment, so there's been no firm timelines put around anything, but it's been broadly spoken about as intergeneration. But importantly, the water quality is, there's 23 attributes that need to be met, not just nitrate. So that things like sedimentation, E. coli, and other things. So it's actually a much bigger piece of legislation than just nitrate.
So the $70,000 report is just looking at the nitrates, or is it looking at the whole of the other aspects of it?
That's correct.
Only
Yeah,
the
so
nitrate.
just the nitrate, because for Mid-Canterbury, that's probably our premier issue.
Yeah.
And for example, Southland, their issue is winter grazing and runoff and sedimentation. So that's their focus.
That's right, but then the nitrate level impacts invertebrates and all the rest of it, doesn't it?
That's correct.
So wouldn't it be better to do the middle report just for Mid-Canterbury to look at the whole of the impact of the MPS on the region?
Possibly.
Just a thought.
Councillor Lovett?
I was just thinking I'd be happy if we did the first one, but would we not be better to hold this over until next year, until the mayors have their meeting and they try and get some consensus working together, because that middle report's affecting everybody and I'd hate to see us pay for it and everyone piggyback on us at our cost, and then maybe we can get ECAN, if we ask the right questions, to get ECAN to come on board with us and help us do all this, because this is a huge issue and affecting everybody, and why should we put our neck out? And yeah, I'm just wondering whether we're better just to wait for the mayor's meeting and then come back and go from there.
I think not. I think we need
You
this
think
information for the mayor's meeting. At our last mayoral forum, this topic was raised, and they formed the working group to get some traction on it, and they knew our report was coming, which they were waiting for. Yeah, and the second report they'll be waiting on as well. But Hamish?
Just to clarify something that Councillor Lovett said, the middle report is just for Mid-Canterbury. So the first report is nitrates in Mid-Canterbury, the second report is the whole NPS in Mid-Canterbury, and the third report is the whole NPS for the whole of Canterbury. So the middle report is just Mid-Canterbury, so the other mayors aren't necessarily going to be thinking about Mid-Canterbury in isolation. In fact, they'll be thinking about their own patch or Canterbury as a whole. So the middle report is just us.
We've got Councillor McMillan.
Thank you, and probably agree with Carolyn. I think the middle report is going to serve us better. I'm just wondering, are we going to end up learning more? We know the first report was quite devastating. Are we going to learn any more by this, doing the nitrates report at 2.4? because we know it's just going to be doom and gloom. So why not just get an overall look at the whole NPS effect on Mid Canterbury? So I'm leaning towards the middle report.
Okay. Councillor Mackay?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to ask a couple of questions for clarification before I make a comment, if that's
Yep.
all right.
Good question, Tom.
The first question of clarification is that this is a national policy statement, so therefore the regional councils now have to turn around and write a plan. And am I correct that that plan has to be out for public discussion in 2023? Is that the start of the plan?
More than I could tell you. Richard, do you know? You're probably right, Councillor Mackay.
Through the chair, I'm not familiar with the regional council work programs. I couldn't comment.
I thought it was in the MPS that they had to do it by 2023.
What I do understand is that they need to give effect to the NPS now.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah. So how that actually formalises into their regional plans, I can't comment on the timeline of that.
Okay, so in that plan that they're going to have to give effect to, does the regional council have any say over what the definition of a generation is?
Through the chair, my understanding is that the regional councils will determine the rate of implementation.
Thank you.
There's a new relationship with the Environmental Protection Authority with regional councils in terms of actually overseeing the implementation. So that'll still work through to whatever extent it needs to. But the regional council, from what I understand, will determine the rate of uptake or implementation.
So they're very important words, what you said in the last sentence, to me anyway. The regional council will determine the timing of this. We in Ashburton, Mr Mayor, in my considered opinion, will have to put pressure on the regional council to sway them one way or another how they implement this plan. If we have no factual data, they'll almost laugh at us, like we laugh at people, or we don't laugh at people, but we sort of take people that come in with just hearsay as against facts. I think we actually need the 70,000 nitrate report, as you said, because that affects us the most. We will be able to use the other districts around New Zealand when they write their section, like Southland has pointed out. We will need that as fast as, because the regional council will obviously start their thinking, if they haven't already, in the new year through a series of workshops, and then draw up their comments for their annual long-term plan, which this will feed into, obviously, or their thoughts will feed into how to enact these regulations. So I actually think we need the information right now, as fast as we can, so the mayors can put pressure on the regional council and the ministers about the generation, what is deemed to be termed, or the definition of generation. Because remember, at the last meeting, we had a discussion on it, whether it was 5 years, 10 years, or 100.
Correct. And the definition of generation, I suppose, it's can be whatever length it is, but it starts today. It finishes with the generation. It doesn't start at the end of the generation, it starts today. Yep. Councillor Rawlinson.
Thank you. I've got a question and then a comment. Are we aware of any other Canterbury areas like Selwyn or Hiranui or Waimakariri? Have they done any studies that are specific to them in this, like we did our one on the 6.9 effect?
Selwyn has done a report about 2 years ago. Richard, you might be aware of that one.
So there was a report done in the Ellesmere catchment. So the Selwyn district have a report more parallel to the original MAR report that this current research was based on, and as do the Hiranui area as well. But my understanding is that there isn't anything comparable to what we've just recently completed.
Thank you.
And there's certainly not anything that looks out to 2.4.
Right. And following on from Councillor Mackay, I think the $70,000 report's our important one to focus in on, because I think you could do the wider one, but there are things in that NPS that we will be able to comply with, in the wider picture, but it's the nitrates that are our big issue, and that's why I think we need to get on with the $70,000 one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I said it before in the last meeting. In generation, it's not only tomorrow; it's the next couple of decades. So we really have to. I think we have to panic, but not panic too much. We have to work towards it. Richard, just a question with the middle report. If we don't want it now, but we want it later, would it be still in the same price, or is it easier to do in one go, or is it easier to add on? I'm looking at the $70,000 get this done, but
Sure. So through the chair, so the approach that McFarlane Rural Business have taken is that the nitrate analysis is one part of the wider report, and then the other aspects of the NPS, for example, wetlands, fencing, stock grazing, the consideration to the Te Mana o Te Wai hierarchy of decision making, they're almost a discretely separate part of that, and the two pieces are added together. So the nitrate issue is a plains issue primarily, not so much in backcountry, but theirs is about fencing and set aside land and so on. So I think you could actually separate those two parts, and if we wanted to do a full analysis, I think you could actually simply combine the analysis of both, the nitrate and then the other stuff, and actually add them together. So cost-wise, I would imagine they'd be similar, but they'd have to be rescoped at that time.
thank you, Richard.
Councillor Wilson?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Richard, the $70,000 one, it will look at not only how it affects farmers, but how it affects our community.
That's correct, yes.
Because I agree with Councillor Cameron. We've got to sell it to not just a farmer report. It's how it's going to affect all the retailers and the whole social fabric of this district. So that's why I was going for the middle one. But I mean, if the $70,000 one will do that, that's good.
Through the chair, that's correct. So Infometrics are costed, their contributions costed into that $70,000 as well as McFarlane Rural.
Councillor Cameron? You might
just
get him over.
Referring to Angus's remark that we need all the facts, we're giving this report to the government to influence the national policy statement and to demonstrate how impactful it will be on our region, presumably, and it's going to be devastating. Will they not say, well, you haven't given us the whole report, you've only given us the bit that drastically affects you the most, and anything, I don't know whether there is any mitigation in the other aspects or not, but would it not be better to give a full report to say we've done a complete analysis on this is the total situation, our district's going to be, it's catastrophic for our district, and we need to review how it's implemented? Would it not be better to have everything in it rather than just the obvious nitrates, which everybody knows we're, as we know from the press or the newspapers, that we're the biggest dairy farm region in New Zealand, so the nitrates are particularly relevant? Is it not a little bit biased, or a little bit one?
Nitrates don't only come from dairy cows, they come from everywhere.
I know, but
I
understand that, but the perception is...
How much have you got?
Just debating.
Oh, yeah. Angus?
Mr. Mayor and councillors, we have been told that three aspects of what's required for the facts are being done by Southland District Council. I think that by the time we get there, the harmful effects to the people on the street of the towns of New Zealand the facts will be gathered by the district councils up and down New Zealand, and it will present a total report to government. I don't see why we have to do the whole thing ourselves. I think we should concentrate on what we know and have it factually tight.
Thank you. Just come back to Councillor Cameron. I just was thinking about my response to you on there. Some of those other aspects you talk about are probably achievable, and we're not disputing them. Okay. We just want to dispute the ones we cannot achieve. Okay. Yeah. It's good. And I think Richard said there was 17, and I'm not familiar with all of them, but a lot of them we probably can achieve and happy to achieve. It's the ones we can't is where we want the kickback. Or we can't, but we need time and we need science.
So what you're saying is to do the whole of the NPS locally is not necessary because we don't have an issue with them, essentially.
Yeah, we're just
So we only got an issue
kicking
with the
back on the
nitrate,
unachievable.
which is one aspect, is it?
Through Mr. Moore, I think doing the whole NPS would provide a more comprehensive report. But the principal economic impact of the NPS rests around the nitrate levels. So you would get, a wider report would give us more information, but the economic impact, the suggestion in the initial report at 6.9 around profitability and land use change and economic impact rests principally around the hard to achieve aspect of the report for Mid Canterbury, perhaps in the Mayor's words impossible, rests around the nitrate levels.
I think we've got the end of that. We need a recommendation, and we don't have one written here, but I'm trying to make one. And I think it would go along the lines that we ask the Chief Executive to commission the $70,000 report on the NPS effects for the Ashburton district. Does that sound right?
Yes, well, I think we understand the intent. And just for Councillor's clarity, the $70,000 report on the NPS is focused on the nitrate level of 2.4 milligrams per litre, focusing on Mid Canterbury. That's the report that I understand that resolution is moving.
Intent.
Yep.
Stuart?
I'm quite happy to move
Yep.
the motion, that $70,000 report with the effect of 2.4 nitrates, not only on farming, but the whole economic and social effect on the district, by the way that you and Hamish put it.
Yep. Councillor Rawlinson, second.
Just second that.
Open for further debate. With Councillor Mackay.
The bit I'm going to be really interested in, is at 2.4, when there's more science comes available and from data collected, whether our mid-foothills rivers will actually be allowed to flow in the future because of the nitrates in them from wild animals. And bush decay and compost that carries on in the foothills bush tree-lined area.
We await the report. I'm going to, no further debate, no right of reply required. Councillor, I'll put the motion. I'm in favour. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So that takes us to the end of the open part of the meeting. Thank you all at home. Wish you all a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Next year will be better, because they always are. We'll know this time next year how good it was. So thank you for the media for all your work over the year. It's been much appreciated. Have a good Christmas. I don't know.